Annuities, are they liquid or not?
Yeah, can we put our money into these? Are we going to lose our money? Or how long is it going to be gone for? What's the?
Yeah.
How does this work, Eric?
How big's the vault that you have to put it in? I guess, can you get into the vault? Is that so? Yeah, when we start talking about liquidity,
Yeah.
and it's one of the first questions we are typically asked.
It is.
Or actually we address with clients because
Right.
annuities typically are long-term.
They are. They're long-term retirement vehicles, and you shouldn't look at them as your liquid money,
Right.
even though there may be liquidity there.
Right, and there's a certain level of each type of annuity has kind of a different level of liquidity.
So let's talk about first of all the annuity that has no liquidity.
Well, I was gonna say the
Or minimal
minimal.
liquidity.
Yeah, I always give you the little caveat there.
There's some liquidity there.
With an immediate annuity, you're going to take your liquid asset, really,
Yes.
and you're going to give it to the insurance company in exchange for a income stream. So the problem is that lump sum is gone.
Mhm.
Now, if you had to go out and salvage it, if you really
Get
think
something
about
out of your annuity.
you could sell it on the secondary market. You're going to get pennies on the dollar.
It wouldn't be a good idea.
No.
Unless you really have to.
Yeah, that would be a last ditch.
Effort.
Uncle Joey's in prison, and I don't know.
Yeah. Let's not go there.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So just don't even consider it as part of being
Yeah.
sound financial planning.
Make
So,
a good plan, and then you won't need to cash that immediate annuity in.
That's right. Just marry one to that.
Well, let's talk about some annuities that are more liquid, or considerably more liquid. Go ahead.
The next level is really that fixed indexed, hybrid, which are all built on that kind of
On that
fixed annuity
fixed
chassis.
annuity chassis, right?
So the best part about most of those, and this is a typical aspect, you're going to get a 10% after that first year. Your first year is usually, for some it's 5%, some it's no withdrawal that first year. But typically after that point in time, you're able to withdraw 10%.
At least by the second year, the 13th month, you can take 10% out, and the beauty of that is there's no penalty and there's no surrender.
Right. So it's some liquidity of what
Right.
you've deposited. Some do it based off the account value. Some do it based off of the original deposit.
Right.
Deposit.
Right.
So
when we're looking at this type of liquidity, again, 10% is a long ways from 90% or 100% of what you actually put in to the annuity. Yet, the idea of liquidity in an annuity is that when you structure your financial plan properly, you're not looking for liquidity with an annuity. That's not the purpose of that money.
right. Annuities are geared towards income, or savings,
Or safety
long
and
estate
getting money
planning.
to heirs.
So
Right.
but you should know that there are ways to get access to some of that cash
Yes.
if you need it. But just knowing how you're structuring your whole plan allows you to safeguard those places.
Yes.
So
Well, and we talk about 10%, but then there's some other provisions in an annuity, because these annuities really are true retirement vehicles, and so the annuity companies look at these and say, well, what would be a real emergency, a real liquid need, perhaps in retirement? And one would be terminal illness.
right.
Another would be a long-term care need. And those all have some provisions for liquidity.
As I say, most annuities have those pieces built in.
You can get all your money back
Yeah.
with no penalty or surrender.
Yeah. And obviously, the one that we never like to even mention necessarily, because it's really not liquidity for you, but it's liquidity for your heirs, is I think
When you pass.
if you would pass, all that account value would move on to your...
And that's important to know, because I have frequently sat down with someone who was just investigating annuities initially and did not understand that those penalties and surrenders are not passed on to heirs.
Right.
They get the full account value, including bonuses, and there are no penalties, no surrenders.
Yeah. And it is a strength in the annuity system, in the sense of being able to purchase something. You may have gotten a bonus or something right up front. Those things typically, if you would pass, even if the second day you've owned it, that full account value moves on to heirs. So.
Now, Eric, a lot of people would see this as being very counterintuitive, because I'm going to make a statement here that, and that statement is simply that surrenders can actually be good. And there's a reason why surrender charges. Now, Eric says no, never.
Don't surrender.
Eric, it depends on which side of the fence you're on.
That's right.
If you're the person wanting to get some money out,
Yeah.
then you think annuity or surrenders are bad.
That's right.
On the other hand, if you're the person that's got your money long-term in an annuity and it's supposed to accomplish your retirement, you don't want other people pulling their money out prematurely.
That's correct, yeah. And that's, when you understand how insurance companies reserve for annuities and how they're constructed, you want to maintain, you want your company that you're doing business with to be financially stable.
Very secure.
That's right.
Remain viable.
And how these annuities are constructed is, once you purchase an annuity, that insurance company is going to take those dollars and typically run down to the investment bond market.
Treasuries.
High quality bonds.
Right.
And that's what they use to reserve your annuity. Now, why is that important? If the insurance company has to go sell some of those underlying bonds early because you've surrendered prior to your maturity time, they're going to have to sell those bonds on the open market.
Perhaps take a hit.
Yeah.
And this is what some of that surrender charge offsets, but it also makes you take pause and think twice before you go cash in an annuity.
So, and that's where you look at it as being, the surrender fees are actually part of the overall construct for the insurance companies that help them protect the system. It helps protect the entire, basically, industry.
Right.
And what you're protecting
and
people.
Ultimately, it protects the people that are insured. They're relying on the annuity for their retirement.
So that's where he's saying it's a good thing. If you're trying to get to the liquidity aspect.
Now, another thing that I find very interesting that gets overlooked a lot of times is folks will think that, well, once that surrender period ends, which is in 10 years, and that must be the end of my annuity, but it's not.
No, yeah.
No, that's where you now have full liquidity, you have full control over your money, but they still have contractual obligations to you.
That's right.
When you set up the annuity originally.
And that's the key thing. The word annuity typically, in my mind, means lifetime. Once you start it, you're into a lifetime contract. You can decide at some point
to end it early, to walk away.
Right. But you've got a commitment.
You've got them on the hook.
That's right.
And that's what your contractual guarantees
That's right.
do.
And the other thing we didn't talk about as far as another way of getting liquidity with an annuity is obviously annuitization.
Yes.
Any annuity can be annuitized.
Right.
And now what does that mean? Basically, it means you're turning into a lifetime income stream.
So you're really setting it a fixed annuity into what would normally be called an immediate annuity,
right,
if you purchased it right off the bat and wanted an income stream. And what we've found to be very popular lately has been the hybrid annuity. And the idea of the hybrid annuity is it's kind of like you're having your cake and eat it too, where you can have your lifetime income, but in addition to that, you've still got your asset.
Now, Dick likes to talk about this, so I'm going to put him on the hook. We talk about majority control
Yes,
a
we
lot
do.
of times with
Yes.
with hybrid annuities, especially.
Right.
You want to kind of explain a little bit of what when you talk about majority
Well,
control.
when you first start out with an annuity, obviously there are surrender charges, and the surrender charges are higher in the earlier years. But even in the worst case scenario, as a rule, when you subtract the bonus out, because let's face it, if a company gives you a bonus for putting your money with them, if you take your money out early, they want their
bonus
back. Yeah, they want their money back. So when we say majority control, that surrender charge, kind of in its worst case, is about 10%. So that means you literally control 90% of your principal, and then you have a decreasing surrender charge over the years. So you continue to gain a higher and higher majority until you have 100% majority control, and yet you still have contractual guarantees that company has to honor. So this is what we say majority control, which is the opposite with the immediate annuity. Because with the immediate annuity, you've given up your lump sum and you have no more control over your asset. So did I do a good job?
That was it. Thank you. And I think that helps people a lot of times, because when you're thinking about, especially the liquidity, if you're looking at a hybrid annuity, really you have to understand, for the most part, unless it's a really weird contract, you've got at least 90% control of all the dollars from day one.
Exactly.
And so it's a good way of kind of thinking about it, because I've seen the market take a 10% dive,
Yes.
and you lose 10%, well, over a period of time.
Right, sure, absolutely, and we know that's the beauty of an annuity, is it gives you that security and safety, and it takes the volatility away of the market, and so for at least a portion of the portfolio, we recommend a lot of times that's the foundational portion of the portfolio.
Well, So I guess to try to sum up this this topic, we would say just know when you're going to the annuity market that one, you're going to have majority control
Yes.
in situations, and also know that there's more than one way to get access to your dollars.
Yes, there are. And as we, kind of hinted, it's important to not think in terms of, well, taking all of my money out of the annuity at one time, but taking us 10% or what you really need, and that when you structure that annuity originally, that you structure it as a long-term portion of your portfolio.
Yeah.
So, okay, folks. Hopefully we've covered liquidity in annuities, and I'm sure there's more we could say, Eric, but
Liquid or not.
have we said enough today?
I think so.
We never know how to wind these
Ending
up.
is always the hardest part.
Thank you for watching.
Have a great day.